Hey guys, Bwongs here for the first flying tutorial for Heroes and Generals, and today we'll be covering key binding controls, my personal customization key binding controls. And just to keep in mind for the following videos, I'll just only be teaching you how to fly debug classic controls. This is the way I learned how to fly, and it's the only way I know how to fly. So if you're looking forward to the new controls and how I'm going to teach you how to fly like that, I don't know how and I'm not comfortable with it. So with the new Wings of War, I'm just going to be covering how to fly with the debug classic controls. I learned this from OMS, or Old Man Smithers flying tutorial, and I kind of tweaked a few of my controls to what I felt was more comfortable and more fitting for my playstyle. So just keep in mind that it's going to be a debug classic flying, okay? So in the next few videos, I will be covering the keyboard cam, the mouse cam, offensive flying, defensive flying, and then some bombing. So it's just going to cover kind of all the basics, a little bit of dogfighting, a little bit of pilot's honor, all of that. So this is going to be a short video, and I hope you look forward to the next videos and it's helpful and you'll learn something or gain something out of it. Alright, so let's get started. Okay guys, so we're in a game, and I'm going to show you how to change your customization of your key bindings if you don't know. So the only way to do this is by being in a game first off, and you want to click your escape button, and it'll pop up the options window, and then you want to go right over to input settings. So click that. Now we have a few settings, but you don't really have to touch anything here. Invert mouse is if you feel comfortable when you want the mouse inverted from the normal controls. I don't touch that for my controls. Show crosshairs, I don't even touch that. The crosshairs are shown anyways. I guess you can remove them if you want. It doesn't seem to change for me. I'm not sure if it's bugged currently. And then here you have plane control mode. Now I have mine at classic because that's the classic controls I'm used to flying. But they have two new controls. Camera mode, which is basically when you're in first person, fixed camera mode. What happens is that when you free look, you'll free look inside of your plane, around your plane, which is kind of cool, but not as useful, I think. So classic mode, when you free look, I free look in like third person mode, and it's a lot more effective spotting my targets. Then you have the mouse control. So for some of you who are interested in learning how to fly debug classic, you might want to try the mouse control. That meaning that you control your plane using your mouse, moving it forward, backward, side to side. But the classic debug controls, we're going to be controlling our plane mainly with our keyboard. So close that up. Now we have our plane throttle mode. Now you have a few options. What the plane throttle mode means is you're going to be controlling the speed of your plane, either accelerating or decelerating. Now you can have it on automatic, which would be the super classic mode, or the classic of the classic controls, before they introduced plane throttle. I was comfortable flying automatic, but ever since they introduced the new throttle system, I felt I had more control. And it's like driving a manual car to an automatic car. The automatic will do it automatically for you, which is nice, but sometimes having a manual control, making the speed up and slow down whenever you need it to, depending on the situation, is, I feel, more useful. And I set that as smooth, so I can adjust my throttle speed accordingly. Step just means it'll step into a gear. But smooth, I can slowly gauge my speed from 1 to 5. Like say 1 to 10, I can go from 1 to 10 to 7 to 6 to 5. Instead of, if you do step, you could probably only do like 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you're limited in step. Smooth, I feel, have more of a manual control. So I keep that at smooth. But pick whichever setting you feel comfortable with. But that's what I fly with. My mount sensitivity, I keep it at 1.000. If you feel the plane moves too much for you, then you might want to lower that sensitivity. If you feel like it's not moving enough, then just increase that sensitivity. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what you're comfortable with, and your mouse or whatever you're used to, right? Every mouse is different, so it reacts differently. Now, to get to all the customizations, this is the basic customizations of your plane. The most important thing is just make sure if you want to fly how I'm going to explain, make sure it's in classic and smooth. Now we're going to hit remap keys, and it's going to offer us more key binding controls. Alright, so I'm just going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and it nicely just shows all the pilot controls or plane controls. Now I'm going to explain in detail for each setting and what it does. So the first one we have is plane accelerate. So this is your throttle to speed up your plane. So that's on my mouse 5, which is just basically a forward bumper on the side of my mouse. It's a similar button as if you were to web browse and you want to move forward in a page or move back in the page. This is the move forward button on my mouse. Now, depending on your type of mouse, you might not have this customization. So you might need to either find a new mouse if you want to fly like this, or what you could do is probably set it as W. Now, it might overlap with some of your controls, but if you were to not release the debug and use W, you can kind of control accelerating, but I don't advise that. It works well with just the mouse 5, the forward bumper. Okay, plane brake is the opposite. It's just my back button on my mouse on the side of my mouse. So it'd be, if you're web browsing, you want to go backwards to the next page before, then you'd press that button. So that's mouse 4. And I'll explain in more detail in the mouse cam. What these buttons are. I'll point it out to you so you have an idea. Okay. And next we have plane rudder left, which is A, plane rudder right, which is D, plane orbit camera, which is what I call free look. So basically, plane orbit camera allows you to free look around your plane. It's just very, very, very important. So you can spot enemy, allies, or targets, or even to give yourself a reference of where you are from the air to the ground so you don't crash. Very, very key. I use Alt, and it's nice because it's close to my bombing control, or my key, which is a nice transition. Now we have the plane primary fire. I have it as mouse 1, so this would be your main cannons. It would be your HE, APCR, or your AP rounds. I think on default it's reversed, but I like it as mouse 1. It's just what I'm comfortable with. If you want to switch it, that's absolutely fine. Plane secondary fire would be your machine gun cannon. So I have that as mouse 2. So my mouse 1 is my left click and my mouse 2 is my right click. Next we have plane drop bomb, which is space. That is the default and it's perfect where it is and I like it. Plane auto level, so it helps you auto level your plane if you hold F or tap F. I don't really use it too much. It can be useful sometimes, but I tend not to use it. I feel it's a little bit buggy at the moment, but hopefully they'll fix it. Plane alternative controls, and I have that as shift. This is the debug setting. So what it means is that when you hold down the shift button, you're activating the debug control, which means it will activate WASD to be controlling the plane when you're flying instead of using your mouse. But that's only if you're in the classic setting, okay? So keep that in mind. Now we have the next one is plane alt controls up. So I keep that at W, plane alt controls down, I keep that as S. Plane alt controls accelerate, same thing as my plane accelerate. Because we're going to be flying in debug, all these settings have to match exactly what I'm going to be flying with. Okay, well this is set already, but the alt controls, make sure they're similar to the plane accelerate and brake in case you want to take off your debug and you want to accelerate and brake. It's just it just feels really, really smooth, and I don't have to think I'm out of debug, so it's nice. And then we have issue order, which is actually as E. Now, for most of you, the default for issue order is Q, and here are my reasons. Issue order for E is a default for your use button. So E is your default for your use button for getting into vehicles or out of vehicles. And the reason why I changed my E button not to get into a vehicle is because I don't want to accidentally click it if I am flying and I'm using the debug controls. So that's why I changed my use button to mouse 3, which is just basically my mouse scroll wheel click. So when I click my mouse scroll wheel, it will allow me to get into a vehicle and out of the vehicle. Now keep in mind, this is the same key binding if you're on the ground. So you don't have to make it mouse 3, the scroll wheel click button. You can change it to another button. And if you don't feel comfortable changing your use button permanently, you can always change it in these settings. If you decide to fly or if you decide to go on the ground, just keep in mind the use button is what allows you to go in a vehicle and out vehicle. And I only use this for when I'm getting out of my plane to repair my plane. I don't even bother jumping out to parachute if my plane's going down. And we'll cover that later, but it has something to do with pilot's honor and giving respect to the person who shot you down, and also many other things of supporting your team, getting back and respawning. But that's pretty much it. Now, it'll take some time to adjust and get used to some of these controls when flying, but it just takes a lot of time and practice, so don't be discouraged. Just keep in mind you got to keep going to it. You'll be crashing and dying a lot in your plane, hitting trees, hitting buildings, hitting the floor, but just try your best and don't be frustrated, and don't kind of lose your anger because you can't get a kill or whatever. You'll crash into a plane, or you'll do anything that's kind of that's kind of scummy play styles. Just be legit and fly honorably. Alright guys, so that's about it. Try to keep it short, and good luck. I'll see you in the next video. We'll be covering the keyboard cam, and I'll explain more detail how to fly your plane with these customized controls. Alright, see you later. Peace.